Students, before we are seeing the first chapter, that is a graphs in economics. Before, we have already studied the meaning of diagram and graph. We have studied the difference between diagram and graph, and we have seen the topic importance of diagram and graph in economics. Now we are going to see the aspects to be considered while drawing a diagram and graph. So again we are repeating the point. Aspects means the point to be considered while drawing a diagram or graph. This is also important for board students, please keep in mind. So here the first point here is choice of types of diagrams or graph and their presentation. It means you have to choose the right type of diagram or graph, clear, which looks more effective. As we have seen in the statistic, we have already studied different types of graphs and diagrams. In that you have seen that for the one type of data you can make a 3-4 type of graph for the same data. Clear students? For the same data you can make many types of graph, like you can take any example like demand and supply, income and expenditure. For that you can draw a bar diagram also, you can draw a pie diagram also. Now you have to choose which one is the best one to present it. So this is what the choice of the types of diagram. Certain data, as we have seen, certain data can be presented in the bar diagram as well as in the pie diagram also. So the person who is making or who is the user should make the right decision, should make the right choice that which type of diagram or graph they have to draw to present the data. Next point here is clarity. A picture must look neat and clear. It should be clear. Clarity means it should be neat, it should be clear. And different colors or shade may be used to denote the various components of the pictures. You can use the different shades, different colors for that. Next is on scales and measurement. Proper size, appropriate size, scales must be taken according with the data. Second thing is representation of axis. You know students, we shows an x-axis and y-axis. So whatever you are denoting on the x-axis and y-axis should be clearly mentioned. Next is an data table and the sources of data. So diagram, the graph must be accompanied by the data table. As we have seen that you always draw the table and then you draw the graph. This way students you can see. Suppose this is a bar diagram. Table is also drawn and on the basis of this you draw the bar, not directly bar. So both should be there, table as well as the diagram. So data table and the sources of data should be mentioned. So must be accompanied, which is created by mentioning the sources of data, the picture become more reliable and authentic. If you are going to mention the table or the sources of data, then the data will become more reliable and authentic. Next is a method of calculating the data. See students, if when the pictures is not drawn from the self-explanatory data, but it is drawn from the simplified or statistical formula. If you have written or if you have done some statistical formula, that time you have to mention that formula or you have to clearly tell how that data comes by putting which type of formula. Like example, you can see if in the pie chart, if in the pie chart you are drawing the pie chart, it means you are considering it, you are converting the data into 360. See here, degrees is equal to component value divided by total value into 360. So you have to mention this and you have to mention this calculation of the degrees also, so that the viewers can clearly understood. So method of calculating the data should be clearly mentioned. So these are the aspects to be considered by drawing a diagram. Students, again I am repeating, choice of the diagram, clarity, it should be neat and clear, scales and measurement should be properly used, it should not be big, too much big or too much short. Clear? Representation of axis, on x-axis what you are mentioning, on y-axis what you are mentioning should be clearly mentioned. Data table should be there and sources of data should be mentioned. Next, method of calculating the data. Students, you have to write this answer. What aspects to be considered while drawing a diagrams and graph? Important for the board exam. So you just write this answer also. Now our next topic is types of diagrams. Clear? This can be asked for 1 mark or it can be asked for 2 marks, students. So you have to write this answer also, types of diagrams, specially it is asked for 1 marks only. So there are different types of diagram, that is the pictogram. You know what is a pictogram? The diagram drawn in the form of pictures. Like if population is shown, you are going to draw this way. If number of trees grown is shown, you can draw in this way. So this is what an pictogram. Then the second one is scattered diagram. Scattered means when you draw the diagram, the points doesn't lie on the one line. It can be anywhere on the graph. That is a scattered diagram. Next is a line diagram or time based diagram. This we will discuss ahead. Then next is a circle diagram. After that bar diagram, and then it is a pie diagram. Clear? So these are the types of diagram. If question is asked what type of diagrams are there, name the diagram. So you can name these diagrams. This can be asked for 1 mark. And the above question which we have discussed can be asked for 2 marks, especially for 2 marks. This answer is asked for 2 marks. Okay, now we have to see one by one this diagrams. Time diagrams, first we are going to explain. I have already explained the 2, pictogram and scatter diagram. Now we are going to see a time based diagram, or it is also known as a line diagram. So here you know the datas are there. These are the years, decade, which will always shown on the x-axis, and the variable should always shown on the y-axis. You can see here they have mentioned what is shown on the x-axis like time period, and what is shown on the y-axis, it is shown already growth rate of population in percentage. Again, growth rate of population in percentage is shown here. After that you take the minimum and maximum number. See here the minimum is 17, so 17 should come, and the maximum is 21. So they have taken the gap of 5. See, if you will take the gap of 10, it will become very short. So they have taken the gap of 5. And if one gap if you are going to keep, then it will become too long. You can keep a 2 gap also, will do. But see here students, so they have taken 5 gap, here 5, then 10, then 15, 20, 25, 30. Clear? So for the year 1951-61, the point is here is 21.64. So about 20 you are going to put here point. Next is in the year 61-71, it is 24.80, means between 25 and 20 you are going to put, nearby like 25 you are going to put here the point. The next year 71-80, it is 24.66. So it is also little bit here only. Clear? So in this way you are going to put the point. After that you are going to join the line, and that is why it is known as a time based or a line based diagram. Clear students? So if it is asked in the exam, explain the time based diagram, you have to just take this example, own example. No need to mug up these data. You can write your own data and you can draw your own graph. Clear student? But just you have to explain through the graphs, and then you can explain like picture. This point is important. You will write pictures which shows the shape or a slope of a relationship in economics between 2 variables. See this slope, okay, between 2 variables are often drawn. Again I am explaining, pictures which shown the shape or the slope of relationship in the economic between 2 variables are often drawn. Clear? So for example, and one example you can take, like you can take example of demand curve and supply curve. Demand, if demand rises, supply decrease, supply rises, demand decrease. This is what, and there is an inverse relationship between demand and supply. So this, now the independent variable is measured on x-axis. Again I am repeating, the independent variable is measured on x-axis. This is the second point you have to mention. First you are going to explain this, second you are going to give example, third point you are going to write here that independent variable are written on the x-axis and the dependent variable is always shown on the y-axis. Now what do you mean by independent, students? See this is a year. So year is it is an independent, means it is not dependent on the growth of population. But as the years goes on, this population changes, so it is known as and dependent on the year. Clear? Like you can say the height of the child and the number of years. Like when the child is small, its height is small. Clear, students? As the years grow, like if we grown up to 5 years, then his height will increase, so that is known as an dependent variable. Height is an dependent variable and the number of years is an independent, because it is going to be grow. Clear, students? So this is what on x-axis independent variable is shown and on y-axis dependent variable is shown. Clear, students? So this is the first point you have to explain. Second, you have to give the example. Third, you can explain these on x-axis what is shown and y-axis. And the next point you are going to take, that economics often uses line diagram. Who uses it? That also you have to explain. Now who uses it? Represent the time base. So economics often uses line diagram representing time based self-explanatory trends of a variable. For example, if you want to show size of the population in the different time periods, if you have to show national income of different time period, this you can take your own example, students. There is no need to write this example only. You can write of own examples also. Size of a population in the different time period, national income in the different time period you can write, then GDP you can write for the different time period, rate of inflation in the various years, literacy rate in the various years. Such diagrams can be termed as a time base. Why time base? Because time, different years are there. So that is why it is known as a time based. Clear, students? So this is you can write.